Spring, or otherwise known as wedding season, has arrived, and today's speed build is inspired by just that. Without further ado, let's get on with it. Hello friends, and welcome to my channel. I am really glad that you're here today. So the other day I was working on some of my Dreamlight quests, one of which is cooking, and as I was scrolling through the recipes, I saw the wedding cake, and I just had this idea to build a wedding venue in the game. Now, I chose to place my build in the Forest of Valor, but I really think that it's versatile enough that you could really make it work in any biome. By this point, I'm sure I already sound like a broken record, but I'm just gonna keep saying it. These lighted gazebos are one of my absolute favorite items in the game. The first one I used in this build is going to be like the altar area where the couple would stand with the musicians directly behind them. I set it up this way because now this area could also double as a stage. I really wanted the decor in this area to be very light and kind of romantic, so I tried to stick with lighter colored items, and then I used a lot of flowers for decor in the area. I also used the white picket fence a lot in this build to define areas and also to create some depth. I used these red rugs to create an aisle. I would have maybe preferred something a little bit lighter, but as you know, my options are pretty limited, so I had to work with what I was given, and honestly, I think the red kind of gives it just a touch of elegance. I chose to use these coral pink dining chairs for the guest seating. I've used these quite a bit in some previous builds because I really like the soft pink color and the low profile of them. And in this area in particular, I think they resemble those plastic outdoor chairs that are often used for things like this. My initial plan for this area was to use the natural rock path. However, when I placed it down, it was just too dark for my taste. So I decided to go with the brick road instead. I have been super excited to use the Dreamlight trees in a build, and when I decided to build this area, the Dreamlight trees were one of the first items that I knew I was going to use. These, paired with the ballroom candelabras, create a beautiful backdrop for the altar, and the Dreamlight that falls from the trees combined with the candlelight creates such a beautiful, dreamy atmosphere. I knew I wanted this part of the build to have a bit of a grand entrance, so I used a Mickey arch and then I extended the fencing to close off this part of the build. While I was building this part, I was already starting to think ahead of what I was going to want to add to the build. And as I was doing this, I decided I needed a little bit more room. So I ended up extending the area by extending the entrance. And I imagined this would be like the waiting area for the bridal party or overflow seating for guests. Now, some of you might notice that a lot of times when I'm building, I will drop my fence and then pick it back up instead of continuing to extend it, or by grabbing the last piece and dragging it. And I do this because by dropping it and picking it back up, I can have control of where the post lands so that I have more symmetry in my fences. I did use a lot of these flower rectangles and discs in this build because I have quite a few of them in my inventory from previous builds, and also because I'm quickly learning that they're a great way to create a full, cluttered, well-decorated look without using a lot of individual items. This is where things start to get a little bit interesting. When I was trying to decide how I was going to do the layout for this build, I thought about weddings I've been to in rural America, where oftentimes a building at the fairgrounds is used for just about everything except for maybe the ceremony. I also think an outdoor wedding could also be set up in this way. So I started off with the bar, which you've probably feel like you've already seen me build 100 times, and actually you may have. And since this is going to be the reception and dance area for the venue, I used the drink cabinet from Wreck-It Ralph. I kept the decor very simple with just a few flowers and a couple drinks on the bar, which really you wouldn't even have to do that. I next started placing down the dining area. I often find myself wishing we had more of a variety of these small dining tables, but honestly, I'm not really sure we need it. This one always just is so perfect. I love how in this build, they nestle in so nicely into the corners of the fire fountain to make a unique dining area. This design also helps to disguise the grass underneath the fountain. I used the rocky terrain to further hide the grass underneath the fountain. Now, I'll admit this isn't the best looking, but it is better than the grass showing, and I love this fountain well enough that I'm willing to deal with it. I chose to add some balloons to the decor on this side since it's more of the casual party side, and I used the multicolored pastel ones because I loved the subtle pop of color and also because I had several from a previous build. But I do also think that the light green, gold, and white cluster or the light blue and silver cluster would look just as nice in this area. I then went ahead and defined the main entrance to this area and then the next area that we're going to decorate with the Mickey arches. This gave me a better understanding of the space that I had left to work with. At the rear of the dining area, I added in some tables that will be used as kind of like the buffet tables. I chose to use the marble side tables here as well as in the bar area because I thought they added just a touch of elegance. They look great with the gazebo and they're a great size. Unfortunately, however, they are not big enough to hold the wedding cake, so I did end up using the Wanderer table, which is an item that was recently available in the premium item shop. But if you don't have that, there are a couple different tables available in this size, either from Scrooge or by crafting. This next little area actually wasn't planned at all and was a complete afterthought. When I was deciding what to add to the cake table, I kind of thought about adding a basket, like what would be used for cards. Then I got to looking around the area and decided that the little space up by the bar looked a little bit bare, so I decided to build a whole gift table. To continue with that romantic vibe, I added some candles to the tables, and then on the buffet tables in the back, I dropped some recipes that I had prepared earlier and placed some hors d'oeuvres on those tables. The last area every good wedding venue needs, well, other than maybe some large bathrooms, is a dance floor. I started by sectioning off the area, which wasn't as big as I wanted it to be, but I made it work. I then placed down this gem and opal floor, which then quickly made me glad I didn't have a larger area because this floor is so expensive. Even though I wanted this area to be a bit more fun than the other areas, I still kind of wanted to also stick with the light colored theme, so I chose white couches for seating. I stuck with the fun side of the area and used the bubble lamps for lighting. To connect this area to the rest of the builds in my Forest of Valor, I used the same asphalt path. One thing that I will often do when I'm working on areas in my valley is stop and walk through the progress that I've made. Oftentimes, I will find something that I've missed, something I don't like, or something that could just use a little bit more. And that was what happened here. So I went back in and I added in some decoration next to the seating area. Sometimes all it takes is one little spark to set the imagination free. For me in this build, it was seeing the wedding cake while cooking 5-star meals for Dreamlight quests. I find that especially when playing Dreamlight Valley, I will see one specific item that I want to use, and then we'll create an entire build around that one item, as was the case in this video. Anyway, that's all I had for you today, friends. Until next time, peace out.